Like a lot of you, I'm really hoping that Marvel will improve the quality of their TV shows and movies going forward. I have a great feeling about Daredevil Born Again and the Fantastic Four. I'd made my thoughts pretty clear about the upcoming Captain America movie, but when it comes to the Thunderbolts, I'm just really not feeling it. Do I want it to be great? Of course. It's just that I get the sense that no one wants to be in the Thunderbolts except for David Harbour.
Oh my god. You guys didn't dress up?
In this video, I'm going to go over why I'm having trouble getting excited for this new Thunderbolts movie, and hopefully after watching this video, I will not ruin your enthusiasm for it. But before we move on, please be sure to give a like and subscribe to Reverb Comics. You do not want to miss out on our awesome content. I think the main thing that's really hindering my excitement for the movie is the fact that Marvel has done a terrible job at getting us to care about the Thunderbolts. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Bucky. The guy's a man at a time. He was hypnotized and brainwashed into doing terrible things. He has PTSD, he lost his best friend Steve, and he has no family. When it comes to Bucky, I have a lot of empathy for the guy. But when it comes to these other characters, I'm having trouble getting the feels for them. Now, John Walker is a character that I kind of feel for. The guy tried to be the best Captain America he could be, but failed pretty hard at it. He started out as an ideal guy. He was a highly ranked military soldier, he followed orders, and he did what he thought was right. But then one of the Flag Smashers killed his closest friend, Battlestar, and in retaliation, he killed one of them in broad daylight. Once the public found out about this, the US government subjected Walker to a hearing, and at the testimony, he was stripped of his title as Captain America and dishonorably discharged from military service. Now, with all that said and done, I kind of feel for the guy because he did all the right things, and yet one bad day came along and caused him to go off the deep end, which pretty much ruined his life. The reason as to why I don't 100% feel for him is because Falcon and Winter Soldier was one of those Marvel projects that was not executed very well.
You've got to do better, Senator.
If there was a lot of high quality storytelling happening here instead of preaching, I'd 100% be behind him as a character. But Marvel kind of fumbled his character development here. Ghost is a character that I kind of feel for as well. She was exposed to quantum energy as a kid, which gave her powers but killed her parents. S.H.I.E.L.D. began taking advantage of her powers by enlisting her as a stealth operative. She was slowly dying due to the lack of quantum energy but was promised a cure. Unfortunately, she realized she was being lied to. Hence, she tried to steal energy from one of Hank Pym's quantum tunnels, which put her into conflict with Ant-Man and the Wasp because they were trying to rescue Janet Van Dyne from the quantum realm. Now, her origin story isn't that bad. If Ant-Man and the Wasp took itself more seriously, I definitely feel for the Ghost way more as a character.
Maybe I'm doing it wrong.
But unfortunately, it didn't, so she's not on the list of Marvel characters that I really care about. I really like the personalities of Red Guardian and Yelena Belova. Those actors did a really great job of making their characters really fun and charismatic. I just haven't really seen them get open or vulnerable. Say what you want about Avengers Age of Ultron, but at least we got vulnerable moments with the Black Widow. I really felt for Natasha when she got real about the trauma she went through in the Red Room. And when it comes to the Taskmaster, yes, it's awful that the poor girl got brainwashed by the Red Room. I just have no idea who that lady is. Who knows? Maybe there's going to be a new Taskmaster in the new Thunderbolts movie. Maybe Anthony Masters will make his debut in the MCU. But the point is, as of right now, I don't really care about the Taskmaster as a character. The Thunderbolts really needs to handle these characters with care because so far they fumbled these characters by not taking them seriously, not featuring them in high quality stories, and not letting them be vulnerable. In other words, Marvel fumbled to get us to connect with these characters. Now, I think it's more than fair to say that people can be pretty forgiving when it comes to superhero movies. After all, life is hard, and all people want to do sometimes is just go out and be entertained with friends and family. It's just that the storytelling is really going to have to improve with the Thunderbolts because I can see a lot of fans struggling to connect with these characters. Now, this next point is pretty straightforward. The Thunderbolts has been criticized for being a Suicide Squad knockoff. Now, personally, I don't know which franchise came first in the comics, but what I do know is that James Gunn killed it with his vision for his Suicide Squad. He went out of his way to give each and every character flair, charisma, and personality. In a way, Suicide Squad really set the bar high for the Thunderbolts. James Gunn has a unique talent for telling stories about a ragtag team of misfits putting aside their differences to bond and become a unit. He did it with Guardians, he did it in Suicide Squad, and now he's doing it for Creature Commandos. The bar has been set really high for Thunderbolts because, oddly enough, we've seen a lot of high quality stories when it comes to misfit anti-heroes learning to trust one another. Now the next point that I want to make is that they wrote themselves into a corner. For those of you who don't know, the Sentry will be the main villain in this movie. Val basically recruits, or most likely blackmails, these anti-heroes into fighting the Sentry. In other words, she's probably trying to get them to clean up her mess. In the comics, Robert Reynolds became the Sentry after being mutated by the Golden Sentry Serum. He had a substance abuse problem and broke into a facility to get another fix. He just so happened to come across the Golden Sentry Serum. This serum gave him Superman level powers. The catch when it comes to the Sentry is that he's mentally unstable and has no weaknesses. This guy is so powerful that the Avengers had to use Norn Stones from Loki just so that they could stand a fighting chance. By the way, Norn Stones are no joke. They have the ability to warp reality and grant wishes. So with all that said and done, I just don't know how the Thunderbolts are going to handle the Sentry. They're just not powerful enough to stand toe to toe with him. And since he's mentally unstable, they can't really talk the guy down. The Sentry is so powerful that he had to revert back to his human form to get the Avengers to kill him. In the comics, he suffers from a type of dissociative identity disorder similar to Moon Knight. His alter, the Void, is hell-bent on chaos and destruction. Once he got control over his alter, he changed into his human form so that the Avengers could kill him. Given the fact that the Sentry is this powerful, it's going to be difficult for the creative team to come up with a way to get the Thunderbolts to beat him. They're either going to have to depower the Sentry in this movie or somehow give power-ups to the Thunderbolts. I just hope there's a really clever and satisfying way for our anti-heroes to defeat the Sentry. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the dull color scheme in this movie. After watching the first trailer, it kind of feels like Marvel is regressing aesthetically a bit. In the first two phases of the MCU, all of the characters had a really dull color gradient to them. It wasn't until Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and Thor Ragnarok that the color scheme started to pop. I mean, look at the difference between Hulk throughout the MCU. In Thor Ragnarok, the green of him just really popped. Now that we're in Marvel Phase 5, I was totally expecting things to look aesthetically amazing. But with the Thunderbolts, I'm just not feeling it. Color-wise, everything is dull and dark. And to be fair, not every Marvel project has to be bright and colorful. It's just that visually things aren't as professional as they used to be. If this movie went for a hardcore tone, then I'd definitely dig this gritty visual style. But as per usual, we're getting a PG-13 Marvel movie, so something tells me that this darker vibe isn't going to work well. But chances are David Harbour's personality will more than make up for everything. And the last thing I want to touch on is Marvel's content problem. Personally, I'm really glad that Kevin Feige has slowed down on the number of projects being released. It's hard to believe that there was only one Marvel movie in 2024. Even though production has slowed down, I really hope that you don't have to watch previous Marvel projects in order for the Thunderbolts to make sense. I think Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness really suffered from that. If you were a casual fan and didn't watch WandaVision, I can imagine it would have been very hard to understand why Scarlet Witch went nuts and became the villain of the story. And despite the fact that Deadpool and Wolverine was great, you still had to watch all of the previous Marvel projects, Loki especially, to have that story make sense for you. I really hope that Thunderbolts doesn't get that same treatment. I really hope that you don't have to watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, Black Widow, and Ant-Man and the Wasp to understand what's going on. But who knows? It might be one of those self-contained MCU movies that I'm really in the mood for. It's just that with all of that content and continuity, there's a huge balancing act that needs to be done. At least there's going to be a soft reboot coming soon for Marvel when Secret Wars comes around. I think we can all agree that the MCU needs a bit of a clean slate. So those are more or less my thoughts. I really hope there's a lot of practical effects as opposed to CGI sequences. I hope that the fight sequences are as gritty as the Daredevil fighting choreography. I think the biggest problem with the film is the antagonist. I think there's a pretty big mismatch between the heroes and the villain. To me, they just don't complement each other that well. The Sentry feels like an Avengers level threat. Since the Thunderbolts are a team of anti-heroes that aren't even as powerful as Thor or the Hulk, it doesn't feel right for them to go up against the Sentry. I think it would be best if they went up against another version of the Wrecking Crew or another type of villain that's at the same level as them. But who knows? Maybe things will turn out great with the Sentry. In terms of reading recommendations to get caught up with the Thunderbolts and the Sentry, I recommend starting out with the classic Thunderbolts series that debuted in 1997 by Kurt Busiek. Then I move on to the Jeff Parker series, and afterwards I look into the more recent series like Thunderbolts World Strike by Colin Kelly and Thunderbolts Acceptable Losses by Andy Diggle. The lineups are different from what we're going to see in the movie, but they're still worthwhile to check out nonetheless. To get caught up with The Sentry, I recommend starting with The Sentry by Paul Jenkins. If you're feeling for a more modern take on the character, I recommend The Sentry Legacy by Jason Liu. With all seriousness, I think Thunderbolts will be a decent film. I don't think it'll be Marvel's best, but I don't think it'll be Marvel's worst. It seems like there's going to be a lot of practical and grounded action sequences, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'm just hoping that the writing is strong enough to get us to care about these characters. And if the writing is weak, I hope the performances will make up for it. And I have a strong suspicion that they're going to turn into the Dark Avengers. It would be really cool if the Dark Avengers teamed up with the New Avengers to take on the evil Avengers in Avengers Doomsday. Maybe we do have a content problem, but anyways, I'm not complaining. But what do you think? Do you think that the Thunderbolts will do well? Do you care about any of the Thunderbolts characters? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, thanks a million for watching. Please be sure to give a like and subscribe to Reverb Comics so that you do not miss out on our awesome content. Stay groovy.